What's up, guys, and thanks for tuning back in to Token Metrics TV. This is Crypto Foresights. I'm your host, Forrest Pribish, Director of Research here at Token Metrics, and in this video, we're talking about a couple different altcoins, but I want to overlay this with a little bit of just kind of a market sentiment and mindset as we go into the end of the year. So I was going to start, I'll start with ETH Bitcoin. What the heck? I'll start with ETH Bitcoin. Why? Because this chart right here, and if I zoom out to the daily, you're going to see that we've actually been in this consolidation pattern for ETH Bitcoin for quite a while now. And the reason that's important is because altcoin dominance is doing something very, very similar. So this chart here that we're looking at is just ETH versus Bitcoin, ETH being the largest altcoin versus Bitcoin. But altcoin dominance has been in a very similar pattern against Bitcoin dominance for the last, 5-6 months since May, since Bitcoin started crashing here. And what we're seeing with altcoin dominance and what we're seeing with ETH Bitcoin is that Bitcoin's actually fallen down a little bit, but altcoins are holding up strong, and a lot of altcoins are actually pumping, right? So altcoin dominance is actually already up here testing the top of its consolidation pattern, trying to do something like that. Now, if we see something like this, that is huge for the market. Not only if we see this for altcoin dominance, but if we see this for what we're looking at right now, ETH Bitcoin, right? I'm only pulling up the ETH Bitcoin chart because the charts are almost identical. Altcoin dominance is just a little bit closer to actually breaking out. The reason this is huge, right, is because this has been a massive coiling consolidation pattern, and this would be altcoin season 2.0. What I mean by that is last market cycle, we had two very distinct altcoin market cycles. We had alt season here, right, where we saw ETH just completely ramp up. Right? Then we saw this big consolidation phase where Bitcoin peaked in December. And then we followed it up with another big blow off top for altcoins. This is what I believe is going to happen this market cycle, or what alts are trying to do right now. Alts are trying to break out of this consolidation pattern. It'll probably retest it as support. I would imagine this is a classic breakout pattern where you get the breakout and then a little bit of hesitancy and then the retest for confirmation, and then you go higher. Guys, when ETH Bitcoin is up here and altcoin dominance is up here, that's when the market cycle's just about over. That's when it's really time to start taking profits. Can you stay exposed to some projects long-term as value investments? Sure. But when Bitcoin ends up crashing, when this altcoin market cap actually comes all the way crashing back down, it's going to get ugly. So if this happens, these are the levels, right? These are the levels that you want to be selling your altcoins at and taking profits. Now, I want to actually walk through a couple of different altcoins. I first want to take a look at Bitcoin. And I want to overlay it with this ETH Bitcoin chart, because before we move on, if this actually occurs, if we get this breakout and confirmation, what it'll probably look like is we get a breakout, right? A breakout from alts, right? And then Bitcoin will make a big move while alts stand still. And what this will do is this will drive Bitcoin dominance back up. It'll drive ETH dominance back down, and it'll drive the ETH Bitcoin pairing back down to confirm here, to confirm strength, before altcoins can really start to move. So what this little move here could look like, right, is just a breakout of Bitcoin moving from like 60, 65K all the way up to 80K. So this could be the move right here from 65K, because if altcoins break out and ETH breaks out, Bitcoin's going to be probably moving upwards as well, right? And then this would be driving the ETH Bitcoin ratio down, and our next target for Bitcoin is around 79K. And if Bitcoin could just hover around 79K for a little bit, alts and ETH could have permission to go absolutely crazy, and we could see an alt season 2.0, a second alt season for this market cycle, right? We've had this very, very clean consolidation pattern, right? And this would likely result in ETH prices of 6, 8, 10K, right? So let me actually show you what that would look like on the Bitcoin chart. I'm going to get rid of this chart or that little trade there, right? So one of two things can happen for Bitcoin. One of two things can happen for ETH Bitcoin, and one of two things can happen as far as whether or not we get this alt season 2.0. The first thing that can happen is what I just described to you, the breakout in ETH Bitcoin, the breakout in altcoin dominance. What that would look like is Bitcoin popping back up and moving to $79,000. Bitcoin popping back up and reclaiming the 60K level would probably be congruent with what we just talked about on ETH Bitcoin of this move upwards for ETH Bitcoin and this move upwards for altcoin dominance, right? Now, the second leg of this, the move to $79,000, is where Bitcoin would probably be reclaiming some dominance. It would be reclaiming some dominance and trying to put altcoins back into this wedge, trying to put ETH Bitcoin back into this wedge, right? And that would be in line with this breakout followed by this confirmation. Bitcoin would be trying to put ETH Bitcoin back into this wedge, reclaiming a lot of dominance against ETH and reclaiming a lot of dominance against Bitcoin, right? So that's the bullish scenario. Now let me give you the opposite scenario, but let me first clear out my chart here so I can give you guys a little bit of a clearer picture for what could happen. As I do this, look at the resistance that ETH is getting right now. ETH Bitcoin is getting at the top of this wedge. It's going to try to break out. And if it breaks out, that's indicative, like I said, for the 10th time of alt season, right? If it breaks out. But what could also happen? What's the other scenario? So we don't break out. We don't break out. We come back down to retest the bottom. This would likely be caused by Bitcoin taking up dominance in the form of washing out the rest of the market. And what happens when Bitcoin washes out the rest of the market? Well, it's usually a result of Bitcoin going down, right? So I want to show you a pattern that we've seen after Bitcoin tested 53K as resistance. It's called an ABC correction in Elliott wave theory. So you have a three-wave correction, a three-step correction. We tested 53K as our resistance. We got the nasty, nasty correction. That's A. Then you see the light of day and you say, oh, that was just a one-step correction. We're going back up, but you get rejected. That's B, right? And then you get the third wave, the C correction, and the bulls have had enough and they buy it on this C wave correction. That's an ABC correction that happens all the time in crypto. Now, the bearish scenario for what we've been talking about would be if this is actually an ABC correction, right? And here's the scary part is we don't know if C is here or if C is here. That's the scary part. However, I'll be quite frank with you. I don't believe that the worst case scenario for Bitcoin of heading back down to this long-term trend line, 44K, is all that likely. I don't think we see 44K anymore for Bitcoin, right? I could see us see 53K, absolutely, get a nice bounce and head back up. I don't want that to happen. What I want to happen is for ETH Bitcoin and altcoin dominance to break out of this consolidation pattern. I think that's what the entire market wants to see. And I think the metaverse trade and layer one scalability solution trade is bullish enough to do the dirty work, right? Today we've seen all sorts, or over the last couple of weeks, we've seen all sorts of layer one solutions break out. We've seen AVAX absolutely climbing. We've seen Solana holding steady over $200. We've seen Matic, a layer two scalability solution on ETH, get a very, very nice bounce. Right? We've seen the metaverse stuff go crazy. Sandbox, right? Audius today is up 40%, right? So all of these new narratives are really starting to take off. Now, what does that mean for what we need to look for in terms of entry points for altcoins? Well, if we get this breakout for ETH Bitcoin, what I would recommend, and of course nothing here is financial advice, I would recommend either buying the breakout, or if you're a little bit more hesitant, buy the confirmation bounce on ETH Bitcoin. Here, wait for confirmation, wait for us to get this bounce. Look at the same thing on altcoin dominance charts. It's very obvious and very easy to see. Look at ETH Bitcoin. If ETH breaks out against Bitcoin, that's indicative of an altcoin season, altcoin bull market cycle. All right, so I'm going to give you a couple examples of how to find good entry points. These are a couple entry points that I've snagged recently. I use margin pressure levels, but if you want to simplify it, just think 33% corrections and 50% corrections, right? 33% corrections, 50% corrections. Phantom here, 350, topped out at $3.50, 50% correction, $1.75 exactly. Why is a 50% correction a big deal here? It's a big deal because this is the 2x short level. It means all of the short pressure goes away. All the sell pressure on Phantom at $1.75, it just goes away. Not to mention, if I extend this line out, it's going to become very obvious to you that we had structural support here as well. We had all this previous resistance that now comes in as support. So this is a classic entry point for Phantom. Just buy the 50% correction, buy the previous resistance as support, we get a nice solid bounce. Now, if you entered at $1.75 to $1.80, you've set yourself up for a really, really nice trade if we go back into an altcoin alt season, right? Matic, right? The 2x long and the 3x long, very, very easy to calculate off of this most recent low, which by the way was on our trend line, right? So guys, this is very, very basic stuff. Nothing here is too complicated. Anybody here can draw this trend line here. So it's just a very obvious trend line. I talk about buying on the trend line over and over and over again. Buy on the trend line, buy on the trend. Why buy on the trend line? Because it reduces your risk. It reduces your risk, increases the chance that you get a bounce. If we go into an alt season here, this is a phenomenal entry point, right? On top of that, on top of this being on the trend line, right, it's also our 3x long level of support, which is just 1.5 times your last local low, which is $1.01. Round it to $1. What's 1.5 times $1? $1.50. So that's our 3x long level. And our 2x long level is going to be very interesting to watch. If Matic can pump up to $2 and then break and make support on $2, we could see a very violent move out of Matic. This is something that Phantom did. It's something that Algorand did, or AVAX did, Solana did. All these layer one solutions did this, right? They pumped from their 2x long levels once they broke it. Why? Here's an example for Solana, $22. What's the 2x long of Solana? $44. As soon as Solana broke $44, we saw a wild, aggressive move upwards, right? A wild, aggressive move. Matic, the level to watch for a big breakout and a very aggressive move is if it can break $2. If it can break this 2x long margin pressure level, make an aggressive move up back to its all-time high, hopefully make support on its all-time high and go higher. I still think that there's meat left on the trade here. You see these 2x or these 3x to 2x bounces all the time, right? This $1.50 trade all the way up to $2. Even if we get resistance here and don't break through and break down from here, right? There's still meat left on the bone. It's $1.72 right here. There might be 28 cents to be made per Matic token here, right? Audience, I just want to show you guys the chart on this. This is just a classic example of buying a 50% retracement. Where did we pump to? We pumped to $4 and change. Call it $4 even. It was really $4.05, but $4.05, we can just round to $4. What's the 50% retracement on $4? $2. Just multiply by 0.5 or divide by 2, right? That's $2. Audience has given you ample opportunities to buy at $2. Yes, did it drop all the way down to $1.85? Sure, but this short pressure runs out. The selling pressure runs out after this 50% correction. And now today there's been some good news and it's pumping all the way up to 286, right? So there's been ample opportunities to buy and sell these margin pressure levels. Guess where it found resistance? The 2x long level, right? When it pumped after it got listed on Upbit, it pumped to $4. It couldn't get much higher. Now we'll probably see resistance again if it pumps to $4, right? So guys, in summary, what I want you to get out of today's episode is that there's two scenarios that can happen for Bitcoin. Two scenarios that can happen for Bitcoin and what that means for alts. One is that we get this ABC correction down to 53K with a worst case scenario of 44K. I don't think that's the most likely scenario. I think the more likely scenario is that we've bottomed here. We're going to find support, reclaim 60K, and move to 79.5K. What that looks like for ETH and alts is a breakout of this really, really long consolidation pattern up onto the top of the wedge here in a second alt season. If you want to be exposed to alts, think buy 50% corrections and buy 33% corrections. Those are your 2x and your 3x short levels, respectively. That's an easy way to remember them. 33% corrections and 50% corrections. If you do that, you'll mitigate your risk, as well as if you can buy on a trend line. Speaking of a trend line, if we do see this worst case scenario, here's your trend line where you buy ETH when Bitcoin's driven the price of ETH very, very low. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, make sure you tune back in for more Token Metrics TV next week, every Tuesday, for more Crypto Foresights. Thanks for watching, guys. It's always a pleasure. We'll catch you next time. Bye.